In this demo example, we have 4 people, and what we will have is our principal user, Harry, is going to make a holiday request, and we're going to actually watch the life cycle of that holiday request as people are interacting with it. Harry's manager is Maggie in the same geography, but then in our demo, there's another manager called Amanda in a different geography, and then we have another employee called Pedro in a different geography in a different department. So we're going to see when Harry makes a holiday request, who can interact with it and how. In this example, what we're going to do is we are actually writing a policy for a leave request. We're defining in Cerbos what an admin can do. They can do all these actions. An employee that owns the record. Well, we'll see momentarily what that really means, the definition of it. That employee that owns record can create, view, or submit a policy a leave request. And then what we have is a direct manager. Direct manager can view and approve a holiday request as long as it's in pending approval state. And as long as it doesn't, they're not the owner of it, so nobody can actually approve their own holiday request. And then lastly, we have a view permission for any employee as long as a holiday request, a leave request has been approved. So very quickly, let's take a look at what these roles really mean. This is where we actually link the roles that are defined in our system to the roles that are provided by the authentication system. An admin is an admin. If somebody comes in with a dev or QA role from the authentication system, we can roll them up as a tester. We can create a further definition of employee that owns the record here. As long as somebody is coming in as an employee, we can actually say if their attribute, the owner of an object, is same as the principal's ID, they own that record. Any employee is linked to an employee and a direct manager. Further in our demo, we're going to actually go into this definition. So for the simplicity of our demo, let's take a look at what we're gonna do. So we have Harry. Harry's principal object is very simple, and the key here is Cerbos expects all the objects to be fully hydrated before it comes. We do not connect to your database. We do not connect to any of your resources. With the definition, the answers that are going to come from our system are going to be very simple, yes or no answers. We import Cerbos library, and then we have the objects. Harry is an employee in the marketing department. As we said, Maggie is the manager, an employee and a manager in the same marketing department, and Amanda is another manager in a different geography. She's an employee and a manager, and Pedro is an employee in a completely different geography, in a completely different department. We have Harry's holiday request. This is the object. This is the resource object that we're going to be actually checking if all the different users are able to do something. We have a leave request, and all of its attributes tell who it belongs to and what state that's in. For simplicity, we have a couple of copies of this object in different states. We have one as a draft mode, Harry's holiday request. We have it in pending approval and in an approved state. In here, we have just a helper library for us that's going to enable us to go through all these different scenarios. But the key point in here is we're going to actually keep issuing this request as Cerbos check function that actually passes a principal, action, and a resource. So in this example, while Harry's draft holiday request is in draft form, we go through all these different actions. Can Harry create, view, etc. And once it's submitted, we're going to go through the same cycle. And once it's approved, same cycle. So with that, what we do is first we start our server. Our server actually pulls the data from the local Git repository where we committed our policies. Our policies are right now pointing to a local Git repository, but similarly, it can point to a disk as well as a remote Git repository. Our server is up and running, and we are going to just run this script. And what we see here is, with the current given policy, Harry can view his own draft holiday request, and nobody else can view or approve. Once we look at these submitted holiday requests, that's in pending approval state. Harry and Pedro cannot do any, Harry cannot approve, Pedro cannot view, and both Amanda and Maggie can view and approve it. And once it's in approved state, everybody can approve it, can see it. So per our example, what we're going to do is we're going to just go back and potentially change this definition of direct manager. A direct manager, so and not any manager can approve the holiday request. We're going to actually just say you have to be a direct manager of someone to be able to approve. So we're actually just adding the qualification here is the geography of the resource attributes needs to match the principal's geography or one of the managed geographies. So we make a save to this, and as you see, we didn't change anything upstream in the authentication server. We've actually created this intermediary role. We edited the intermediary role we created as a direct manager. And when we look at our resource policy, so now all these requirements are going to start playing in. We, at this point, just commit those changes to our Git repository, and then we can see in the server logs, they're immediately picked up. So now we actually come back to our demo, mini demo script. It's not even an application. We can actually see all these changes. Nothing should have changed there. Nobody can see a draft holiday request, but once it's in a pending approval state, now what we see is Amanda cannot even view it or approve it. And then once it's actually been approved, everybody can see it. I hope this gives you a good idea about what our system is capable of. Ultimately, it's all about creating resources in our system that map to different resources on your system, whether it's a holiday request, reports, etc. And you can create all of your actions declaratively. And as long as your requests match these actions, and as long as the objects that you have created in your rules are available within your attributes, Cerbos will make the comparisons and give ultimately, if we were to look at this function, ultimately that returns Cerbos returns either a 200 or a 401, and we have true or false. When we look at our server logs, every request has been logged. So then later on, we can actually use all these requests that have been logged. If we make any policy changes, what will be the impact of these different policy changes? Thank you very much for listening, and please do let us know if you have any other questions.